I love to talk about investing and stuff, but it's one of those things again to where like most people don't really like educate themselves as much, so it's usually pretty short conversations.
But sure, I mean, I'm the same as Gavin. I love talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
because I feel like it's important.
Yeah, we could talk about it
for sure.
This is the first episode of 2021. Happy New Year's, Ike. It's been, I would say, about 2 months into this project, but it's been going well. This is our 5th episode, and we have a special guest, your former teammate and your good friend, Gavin Edwards. You want to bring him in?
Yeah, man, sure. Happy New Year to you also. Coming to the show today is a good friend of mine. A great teammate, well-respected guy in the Japanese basketball community, Gavin Edwards. Man, thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Gavin, you played with Ike for, I would say, 4 years with Aishin?
I think it was
2017, three years?
No, it might have been only 2, now that I think about it. Yeah, 2 years.
I don't know, Diddley. How many years was it?
It was 2 years.
2 years.
I just had to get that out the way. Sorry, bro.
What was your experience like with Aishin and then moving on to Chiba?
So when I got to Aishin, that was obviously my first experience with Japanese basketball. And at the time, I think they had just won a championship. So when I came in, it was kind of like high expectations and stuff. And they had a pretty solid core that they had had for a while. So I definitely felt a little bit of pressure when I first got there, but just kind of came in and just really played hard most of the time and just tried to make the best of the situation. And it was a really good, I love the whole organization there. They were like really accommodating. They really tried to set everybody up. Coach Suzuki was a really good players coach, and he never really like kind of micromanaged or anything like that. And he just kind of let the players do what they do. And he just put good teams together. And I really enjoyed my time there. And then,
yeah, man, it's similar to when I got there. You guys had just came off a championship. So,
yep.
I mean, the pressure is for sure there with that team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, teams definitely get, once you have some success, they expect it to be like easily repeatable, and it's like it just doesn't really happen like that. Like
it's tough
for Toyota to have won 2 championships against us. Like that's pretty tough to do. It's just to win 1 championship, but to win 2 back-to-back like that, you really have to give credit for that.
For sure.
So your team right now is 24-8, second in the standings in your division. What do you think is different this year than the previous years where the championship kind of has been a little bit elusive from you guys?
I think we definitely have like a little bit more different of a team and with like the change in the rules and stuff, like with me naturalizing and me being a naturalized player and having 3 imports available to play during the game, that definitely changes things because I've played with all different types of rules with you can only have 2 imports and 1 can play per quarter like at a time, and then the other quarters they can play 2 at a time, and like there's been all types of different stuff like that. So this is definitely a different type of year to where it's definitely taking some getting used to for our team for sure. And I think we're still kind of trying to find our identity and stuff. And we have a solid core and we have some really good players and a lot of talent and stuff. But I think just really kind of, like we were talking about before, like putting together a consistent effort, I think is our biggest challenge right now.
So how was the whole naturalization process? Do you feel like going through that process and coming out the other side of it, that it's been a real advantage to you guys in this year?
Yeah, the process is tough, man. They are very invasive for sure. Mm-hmm. You have to submit every possible piece of identification in document form, like mother and father's birth certificates and marriage licenses. Like, they know absolutely everything about you. Like, they know stuff about me that I didn't even know before that, and I like found out. And but yeah, the process was tough, very nerve wracking, and it is kind of like a stressor because it's like pretty high pressure, like doing the meetings and stuff and all that. But like it definitely has helped our team to be able to have somebody who was basically an import before be able to be a naturalized player.
Yeah, for sure. Especially having a guy like you, because you're really unique with the way you play the game. You play with a really high level of intensity, and you're a great shot blocker, and you're great in the mid-range game, great in the pick and roll game. I feel like it's actually a huge advantage having a point guard like Yuki along with you. Mm-hmm. It's big.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I'm definitely like more of a jack of all trades type of player. Like I'm not really great at any like particular area, but except for probably running the floor. I just do that all the time. But aside from that, I think more of my game is just trying to kind of see who the opponent is and just kind of figure out how, like, in what area I'm better than them, and then try and exploit that to my ability, because they're usually either like bigger than me or can shoot better or whatever that may be. They're going to have some type of strength on me, but I know that I just have to figure out basically on my end, like what I can do to get the best of them as well.
Just outwork guys. That's what you do.
I try to, man. It's getting harder as I'm getting older, though.
I don't want to go back to getting your Japanese citizenship. How hard was the test? Like the actual, I guess, the testing of your Japanese skills?
So basically, it felt like an eternity, but it's like a one-on-one an interview with a government official. He pulls out the file of like documents, and it's seriously like an encyclopedia. And he has absolutely everything, and he just like plops it down on the desk, and then he slides a paper over to you, and it has like a basic writing, and you basically just have to do hiragana and katakana, just writing like simple words. It's all in Japanese. There's no like, what does this say in katakana in English or anything. It's like, it's all Japanese. And then there's a reading comprehension part. That part was kind of tough because it's different between doing like conversational, but then like actually like reading something and like trying to figure out like the question is like a little bit more difficult. And then that's just like the more standard like actual test of Japanese. And then if you don't even pass that, then they don't even like move on to the actual like interview. And then I would say it's probably about 45 minutes to like an hour of him going through all the documents, and they've already gone through it and they have questions about certain things. So then he'll go through and he'll ask you about certain things like, what was your mother's maiden name? Why was it this? Or like, why did your parents meet here? Like something like that. And you have to answer it in all Japanese, and it is stressful. I started off, I was like stuttering. I was sweat through my shirt and stuff. Man, I was going through it.
Did you pass your first time around, or?
I got lucky and I did it my first time because they have like an initial meeting where you like submit all your stuff, and I like really struggled in that meeting with like speaking to the government official and stuff. So I think that like kind of scared me straight to where like I was like, I got to study, like I got to do all that. Cause that's what they mostly judge you on, is as long as like you don't have anything that's, how do I want to say it? Like odd to them as far as like all your other documents, like your family setup and all that. As long as nothing like that is weird, then it's basically just a test of like your like mannerisms, and like if they honestly feel like you would be able to like assimilate to like the Japanese culture and stuff. So yeah, I passed it my first time after that like initial like meeting. So I definitely got lucky, and like I was like relieved because I was like, I don't know how much longer I could do all this preparation stuff. It was rough.
Yeah. And what was harder, the naturalization process or getting that Japanese driver's license?
Man, those are like neck and neck, man. I think it took me 3 tries to get my Japanese driver's license over the course of like 9 months or something.
Man, that process was crazy, bro. We had to go through so much to get that.
I've been driving for like 10 years at that point. And then they were like, yeah, sorry, you didn't pass. And I was like, I never had an accident. Like, I've been a good driver my whole life.
It's like crank churn, I'm telling you.
Like they had us waking up at 6 a.m. We had to be at the DMV first in line. We had to take like the written test, take the driver's test. Hopefully we got a good enough teacher, and then we'll be able to pass. It was so hard, man.
Oh, you guys did this together when you were in Aishin?
Yeah, when we were there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember Mike passed his first try, and then it took me 3 times, and then it took you a couple times too, right?
Dude, it took me 3 times. I remember doing it once when I came back from the States. I turned out the wrong way. The professor was like, "Dame," and I just went back to the front like, it's over. It's instantly over. No chance.
Oh man. Yeah, that driver's test is crazy. But I understand like the logic on their part behind it though, because I know Japanese citizens have to go through like such a strict process, and they have to do so much. So it's only right that kind of put everybody else to the same standard.
For sure.
Right, so now you
their
got
process.
Go ahead, Ike.
No, go ahead.
Oh no! So now you've gotten your driver's license, you've gotten your citizenship, and you joined the national team, the Japanese national team. How's that process been like? And you could potentially be selected for the Olympics. So what do you think about that?
It's definitely very exciting because I think that's kind of something that everybody dreams of as an athlete, is like competing at like the highest level and representing your country and all that stuff. So I think that it's definitely like an exciting thing, but it is kind of stressful to be like competing and stuff, and the scheduling for it is tough too, because we go like in mid-season when other teams have breaks and stuff. We have full practices, and like everybody's competing to try and make the team. So it's really high level basketball and high intensity, and it's not anything to where like you can just kind of get by with. It's like you're going all the time, and you're always on 10. So it's been a cool experience, because just being like that atmosphere has been really cool, and just even like the chance to be able to compete in the Olympics is pretty cool and very exciting for me.
With the way you play the game, though, man, on the international stage, it has to be like a picker-upper for the guys that are around you, because you bring so much energy to the table. It has to like really uplift those guys, right? Yeah.
I haven't really played in any games or anything with them, but in practice, I think that I've gotten along with the guys that I have played with and all that stuff. But yeah, I'm interested to see what it's like playing in like actual games and stuff. Being in like an actual like official game setting.
It's awesome.
How's the intensity? Well, you kind of touched upon the intensity, but when we had Ira on, he said when he first joined, he was kind of dead, and it didn't seem like there was much pride in like playing for the national team. So now you're saying people have kind of picked it up and kind of, I guess, took some pride in playing for the team now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that with it being on like a much grander stage with the Olympics and it being in Tokyo this year, that I think that everybody, it's just national pride, really. Like it's really, you don't want to look like you aren't the best, and like you don't want to really let your family and friends down because everybody will be watching. And I feel like it may have been different before when the team wasn't competing in the Olympics, but now that they're in the Olympics and it's on, like the entire world is watching, even though it may not be as followed as closely as like Team USA or some of those other top teams, it's still everybody watches those games and stuff. So I think that everybody wants to put their best foot forward and really represent the country and represent themselves well.
Well, it's a huge accomplishment, man, for you to even be considered. So congratulations on that, bro.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Prior to playing in Japan, you played in Ukraine, you played in South Korea, played in Greece. I read an article where you didn't get your full pay from Greece at the time or something like that. Or what has your experiences been like traveling the world and playing basketball? And I guess other than Japan, where'd you like it the most?
I really like the kind of like lifestyle of Greece because it's like a beautiful country, and I liked, aside from like all the troubles like financially of like them paying us and stuff, like it was like I liked the food there and it was easy enough, and like most of the guys spoke at least like enough English, so like it was super easy to like get around and do stuff. But I'd probably say Greece was probably my second favorite, but the whole like financial thing there was trash. It was so bad.
Playing for free.
Basically, man, like it would, like they would give you like just enough so like you wouldn't leave, but then like they would be like months behind, and it got to the point to where like it was like later in like the season because I got there. I want to say like November, December, and then I got hurt, so I wasn't like really tripping about anything. And then once I like started playing again, they would like just kind of hold the carrot out in front of you for long enough to get you to play. And like it got to the point where it was like later in the season where like I didn't want to like leave and go somewhere for like a month or something, and then probably be like the same deal. So I was just like, forget that. I'll just finish this out. And then as soon as I left, the team folded, so I couldn't even like take them to arbitration or anything. Well, there goes that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what's going on now. Is that's happened a lot in Europe with this COVID situation. So I feel that the market here in Japan has been very, very, how do you say, like flooded or saturated with a lot of guys trying to get here now because they know that things in Japan are much more consistent than there are in other places.
Yeah, everything is stable. You don't have to worry about getting your pay on time, which it's like with it being like your job and your livelihood, having to worry about if you're actually going to get paid, like that's like a one-off scenario as far as jobs and salaries and stuff go. So it's nobody wants to have to worry about that for you giving up your time and your body and all that stuff, time away from your families, especially now with COVID that most families can't even travel to countries. So it's like you're giving up all that stuff and have to worry about getting paid. It's just not worth it. It's like, I'm not sure like top level EuroLeague guys would come here, but like guys where it's like kind of comparable in pay or like you might take like a little pay cut or whatever. They're like, man, I'm just going to take that 100% certainty, not have to worry about it. And
for sure, if you got a family, it's super, super safe. So it's a no-brainer for a lot of guys right now.
Exactly, yeah, for sure.
I want to go back, I guess, to college, your college years. You played 4 years under Coach Calhoun, a legendary coach. And you had teammates like Hashim Thabit and Kemba Walker. What was that experience like playing in, big conference? You're on the national stage, legendary coach. What did you learn? Just that whole experience. What was it like?
That whole experience was like such an eye-opener for me because I came from Gilbert, Arizona, to where like basketball is not like huge in Arizona. It's definitely like a big basketball. It's getting bigger now, but there was maybe, I think Jared Bayless was one of like the few guys who came out who was like a I'd say like a top 10 and like or like a McDonald's All-American, and at the time when I was playing, so like there wasn't like a whole bunch of like loaded talent and stuff, and I didn't even commit to UConn until I want to say like 3/4 of the way through my senior year. So it just kind of like the stars aligned and it worked out for me. That was my only offer. Coach Calhoun called me and offered me a scholarship, and I committed on the spot, no visit, and like no nothing. So I was like, man, if he wants me there, I'm on the next thing smoking.
What other offers did you have at the table?
That was literally the only one. And then I think I had the coach from Eastern Washington called and said that if they had a scholarship open up, that he wanted to offer it to me. But wasn't like 100% sure about it. But it was just UConn. So like as soon as Coach Calhoun called, I just committed like on the spot. I didn't have to ask my parents about anything.
What?
I was just like, man, I'm coming, bro.
Yo, that's rare, man. Usually to get in UConn, you got to be highly recruited. That's big time, bro.
Yeah. Well, it was just one of the things to where my AAU coach was well connected with one of the basically the head recruiter from UConn. And he was like, hey, do you have any big men that can like run the floor and block shots and stuff? And my AAU coach was like, I know somebody for you. And then I just did that. He watched me play like once or twice, and he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm going to tell Coach Calvin. He's like, he's probably going to offer him. And then it just worked out to where that season was like the year where they had like, I think like 5 or 6 guys that got drafted from UConn. So they had a bunch of scholarships open up, and I was a class of 8 freshmen that came in.
Wow.
Yeah. And then when I got there, that was an eye-opening experience for sure, because I've been in Arizona my whole life, and then to go to the Northeast was shocking, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. A major culture shock.
Oh, yeah, exactly. In weather and culture, for sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Boston and New York guys everywhere.
Yeah, definitely.
While at UConn, you played with the Beat, who came over to Japan as well. What was that like matching up with him after so many years?
I mean, it was just like, it was almost like being like back in practice again, except in games, obviously. But it's always like shocking to stand next to somebody that's that big in stature and stuff, because it's like we're pretty like big people as basketball players, and then to see somebody that's like that much taller than you and stuff, it is kind of shocking because you're just not used to that. But both kind of play the same, except at like a little bit higher level now, because our games have matured from being professionals for this long. But just kind of back to the same old practice days at UConn.
Yo, Diddley, were we teammates when we played against him?
Yeah. No.
I think so. Because I can remember you and JR talking about how many times dude blocked my shot in one game. He blocked my shot so many times, man.
I don't remember, because I remember my first year when I was at Chiba, he was at Yokohama.
Yes.
And then, so maybe.
Man, I'm not sure.
Middle of the year one time.
But I don't know how you took that in practice, man, because he blocked my shot 6 times in one game.
That's why I just ran all the time, so he couldn't get me.
Use your advantage.
Exactly. I knew I'm not gonna be able to, like, he was punching everything back then too. Like, it was wild, man.
I'm putting the ball away from my body, shooting like sky hooks, and he's just starting half court transition balls with him.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like a whole nother level, because he was like 7'2", and then his wingspan was like 7'5". So it was like he was just like standing there, and he was already at the rim.
Yeah.
And he's actually like really mobile for his size too. So like even when we thought that like you could finish, he was right there.
He's blocking everything.
Yeah, I remember when JR was talking about this on his episode, and he said he hated getting blocked. So that was one of like his, the guys he hated going up against. So I think Ike similarly, right? I mean, you just nightmare.
It's a nightmare, man. Like as a basketball player, that's like the one thing you don't want. If you do a nice move, you don't want somebody blocking shot. If you miss it, that's one thing, but you don't want it to get blocked. Like, so going against him and even Gavin's a really good shot blocker. Like he's really, really good at timing the ball. If you put it on the glass against guys like that, they're going to block it. And it's frustrating as a basketball player for sure.
And it's like, it's always in the back of your mind too, because like wherever you are, like he could be at like the 3-point line, but you're like, you're almost like looking over your shoulder. Make sure you're not going to get blocked. So it's definitely one of the tougher things to go up against a shot blocker like that. Sure.
It's funny though, because I used to do this move a lot my first couple years professionally. And it's like I could never get it off against Gavin because I would have to shoot it across my body and he would always block it. So that made me have to develop a pump fake and step through because I got tired of Gavin blocking my shot in practice.
Because you've never had a left hand, so you used to always just...
You had that thing timed.
I mean, if you see the shot enough, you're just going to know it's coming.
I'm like, forget that, dude. You got to work on left hand and do something different.
You evolved your game the past, I would say, 5 years. Looking at your stats, you shot, I think, high 20s, maybe in 2017 from the three, and now you're shooting high 40s, I believe, 49%, I think, what it's currently at.
Is that a real stat?
That's a real stat. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, he went from 20s to high 40s.
There was one point I was at 70%.
And there is some volume there. I think you shot like about a 40 or 50. I think you have about a total of a 50 3-point.
Yeah, I was at like 70% for like 30 shots, I think.
What?
Impressive.
Dude, you were balling.
I didn't shoot that many. It was like one a game, but I would go like 1 for 2, and then I would like make one. I'll go 1 for 1 a game.
It's 50%, man. You're a threat out there.
Yeah.
That's something that you're really focusing on, just kind of extending your range every year.
Yeah, for sure. Because sometimes I think a lot of teams are getting a little bit more better defensively, and they really started collapsing like the middle a lot more, and there's just not really as much opportunity I feel to like really just score like in the post as much, aside from like duck-ins and rebounds and stuff. So, and the way that our offense is run is a lot more like motion and stuff. It's not really like just dumping into the post and then everybody move on the outside and try and get open and stuff. It's a lot of like dribble handoffs and screens and just pick and pops and stuff. So it's one of those kind of adaptation type deals to where you kind of have to figure out like where to get shots in the offense and stuff like that. So definitely had to work that into my game for sure.
For sure. Because I know a lot of teams were expecting you to dive, and if you're picking and popping, that's a problem.
Well, and that's the thing is like, especially with a lot of the bigger guys in the post, like I'm not going to be able to wrestle with dudes that's like that much bigger than me and stronger than me and stuff. And I don't really want to anymore. So
for sure.
I would much rather just be able to pick and pop and get a shot that I want where I'm not really contested, because most of the time if I'm setting a screen for Yuki, they're going to be more focused on him and he's coming off, and then he just takes it to me and I can get a fairly uncontested shot. So I'd much rather work from there than just dive every time and have to try and get position and all that type of stuff.
Bro, that game against Toyama you guys played last month, man, it was amazing to watch. The shots that were getting made back and forth was just incredible, dude.
Julian was cooking us, bro.
No, Yuki was too, though. He got hot, man. I'm like, dude, this is crazy to watch.
No, but it got to the point to where Julian was like I'm like, I don't know what to do, man. Like, like he was
Who
driving.
hit him from half court though, Gavin?
That's what I'm talking about. Like, what are you supposed to do with that? He was driving. He was pushing the ball in transition. I was like, man, this is wild, man.
Like I've only seen one other. The only other player, that Japanese player I've seen get hot like that was Kosuke. You know, when Kosuke gets hot, he's hot. And Yuki was locked in that night. He was making everything, bro.
Yeah. I think Yuki had like 40, and then I think Julian had like 50 or something.
What a game. You guys got the win though.
Yeah. We got lucky. We made some mistakes. Like when I can't remember who fouled Wonga when he shot that three at like the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, come on, fellas. If he makes a shot like that, like I understand he's been hitting, but it's like if he makes a shot like that in the last few seconds, and like it is what it is, but like, don't put him at the line for that. And he made it too.
It's just some stuff. There's nothing you can really do about it. You can test it. I mean, you shoot those things from half court, bro. Those were deep.
Yeah, it was like for real half court. Like he was like a couple steps in and then pulled it up with confidence.
But the sign of a great team is the win, though. You guys pulled out a big one with that.
Yeah, that was definitely a big win. They're a good team, man.
Yeah, they're solid this year.
Sure.
What's it been like playing with Yuki the past few years, and have you seen him progress every year? Because it seems like just every year he's improving, and I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but I'm pretty sure no one wants to get switched up on him. And yeah, I mean, he's like unstoppable, especially when he catches rhythm. So what's it been like playing with him?
It's been, I think he's really like, he's always been like confident. Like he knows he's good, but I think like his confidence and like truly understanding like how good he is, like has grown to such a level to where he's liable to go off like any night, and he knows what his strengths are, and he plays to those very, very well. And I think that he's gotten a lot more refined with using that, because whenever he gets like a big that switches out on him, he's really good at using his speed to get the guy moving side to side, and then he attacks or he pulls up and shoots. And he's really good at using his advantages, because he knows that he's not going to be able to drive into the lane and finish over people. Yes, he does have like the floater when he gets in the lane, but it's like you can't really like count on that absolutely every time. So he's gotten very, very good at his shot selection and knowing where he can and can't get to. And I think he's really kind of polished his game as a player for sure over the last few years.
What about you, though, Gavin? Over the past few years, where do you feel like your game has grown and developed the most? I'll tell you from my perspective, it seems like the game has slowed down a bit for you.
Yeah,
like it used to be just 100,000 miles per minute, but now it seems like you've like kind of settled into like using that, but then also using other things.
Yeah, I think that that's exactly what I was going to say would be, I think just kind of slowing down a little bit, and of course like running and doing all like the high intensity stuff, but there's only so much of that you can do in a game. And then a lot more, I think a lot of players get a lot more success when they do kind of slow down a little bit and they kind of take what other teams give them, and that gives you the opportunity to create not only for yourself but for other players on your team, because our team has so much talent on it that like there's some guys that have to do everything and they have to shoot every time or feel like they have to. And I think that we have so much talent that being able to like facilitate for other guys and hit other guys when they're open, I think that that's what truly makes good teams, and that creates the most success for teams, especially out here, because you can have a guy that scores almost 30 points a game, but they could miss the playoffs because he just scores 30 points a game, and then the team
That's a great point.
The team will score 60 overall versus a team that consistently scores like 80-something points, and they all move the ball and they have a bunch of assists. And I think that makes the game a lot easier for everybody too, because it's not just kind of just pounding the ball and just one person trying to do everything. It's everybody getting involved, because then everybody plays harder. if they feel like they're involved in the play. And I think just that's one thing that I've been trying to focus on more, is just trying to get like everybody involved and create for other people and try and do that.
Yeah, it's big time. I definitely have noticed, like, even in watching the games and playing against you, like, it seems like it's definitely slowed down for you, and you're actively seeking to get other guys good shots now versus just putting your head down and running through somebody.
Yeah. I had to cut that out a little bit. It still happens from time to time, but
It happens.
try to cut down on that.
What do you think Chiba Jets do that have made them so, I guess, one of the top teams? Because usually they're company teams that are usually at the top. And Chiba has been, I guess, from the BJ League, and they went to the NBL, and then now the B League. It seems like every year they just grown. What's different about Chiba and in comparison to maybe other teams?
I think it's just a little bit style of play, and I think that the way that our team is composed, it's a little more like fast paced, I would say, because like even like the bigs on our team aren't really like traditional, like the guys that would be considered centers and stuff, and for like power forwards, they're not really, I would say, like size wise as big as a lot of the other like centers and stuff in the league. But I think our coach focuses more on getting guys that are like have a higher mobility and can defend on like the wing and stuff, versus guys that get switched out and they're like, I don't know what to do out here. So I think just being able to have everybody kind of do a little bit of everything instead of guys that are, I don't want to say one dimensional, but just guys that are a little bit one dimensional, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But you guys are deep also. You got a lot of depth.
Yeah, we definitely have
a
lot of talent. That's one thing, is we've had a lot of talent every single year, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like you guys just wear teams down. That's why it's tough to beat you guys in like a playoff series, is because you may win the first day, but the second day you guys can play so many players that you're still kind of fresh. So that wears down on the team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's a kind of thing that I was talking about before too, is that like just being able to be consistent, because like even if we do play in like a series and stuff and we get beat one game, if we can still play at a high level both games, it's tough for teams to play at a high level for like back-to-back games, or say it's the playoffs and it's like a 3-game series, so as you split, then usually the last couple years that we've had playoffs and stuff, that's usually when we get by. Because I remember we played Kawasaki and they beat us. They beat us one game, and then we beat them the next day and had to win. Like they had like the 30-minute halftime, and then we had to play like another game or whatever. Mm-hmm. And just barely squeaked them out because some of their guys just got tired, and it's hard to play at such a high level for that long. So I think it's just kind of being able to have that endurance as a team, for sure, being consistent.
Which Japanese player has impressed you the most? You play on the national team now. You practice with the top Japanese players. Which players caught your eye?
I mean, obviously Yuki, but I really like Seiya Ando's game from Toyota. I like his game a lot too. He plays.
Yeah, he's nice.
He plays hard, and I just like the way that he plays. I think he's really skilled, and he's kind of gotten to that point where like his confidence has grown a lot, and I think that he's turned into a really good player, for sure.
He played in the Canadian League. I remember, I think he was there the year after I was in it.
Oh, he did, huh?
Yep, he did. He played internationally.
Yeah.
I think that brings a lot to Japanese players, going overseas and getting that 1 year, 2 years experience. I think that really, really brings a lot to their games.
Yeah, I think as well, because guys get so comfortable playing here that to go to another country and like you have to really like prove yourself to be able to play. It's not like you go there with this long resume and coaches are just like, oh yeah, you can start and all this type of stuff. It's like you have to go and you have to do your thing. And you have to like truly compete for any playing time you have. I think that really teaches guys how to be competitors and stuff. So, and that really translates well to coming back here.
I agree, 100%.
How about just overall during your career?
Man, there's been a lot of guys. Kiyojima. Because his first year was my first year in Japan. So his first year professionally was my first year in Japan. And to see how he's grown from that year, because he kind of deferred to other players on our team. So like he was definitely good and like he played a lot and he did well, but like to see how far he's gone and like he's just kind of taken off for sure since I've been.
No, bro, the year you left, he was on a different level. That was the year he got the MVP, man. He was everything we've been trying to tell him, like, stop deferring, stop looking to pass, dude, go score. He was ISOing, he was shooting floaters, stepping, he was doing it all, bro. It was crazy to see.
Yeah, he's definitely grown to be a great player. I'd probably say him because like everybody else kind of started out at like a certain level, but to see like his growth, I think is the most impressive to me. Yeah.
Today's a Monday. It's your off day.
Mm-hmm.
How do you usually spend your off days?
Wake up, talk to my family, and then I'll usually go lift, and then come home, make dinner, read, call it a day. Same as every day, basically.
What are you reading these days?
Mostly finance, like investing books, and then some self-improvement books as well.
Any particular names you got for us?
A lot, man. I read over 30 books last year.
That's awesome.
I think one of my favorites is The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. That's a really good one. Yeah, I would say that was probably like my favorite book I read last year.
Mm-hmm. Check that out. Yeah. You're more than welcome to send me over a copy.
You pay for shipping, I will.
You just said you read about finance and stuff. What is your, I guess, opinion on what's going on with the money printing by the Fed in America and how it's kind of, I guess, created liquidity for the stock market? And I don't know. I'm curious because you just mentioned that you're into finance. So,
I don't know. I think it's kind of creating a perfect storm because they've just been printing money left and right just to bail out, and there's obviously like a reason, like they were trying to bail out the economy or whatever, but I just think that there's going to come time when they're going to have to pay the piper, and I think it's going to leave a lot of people left with their pants down. So
you can't print that much money without some repercussions.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to come back to bite. It's going to come back to bite them at some point. Everybody talks about like their inability to pay everything back, and then now everybody's talking about the DeFi movement and moving to cryptocurrency, or at least some type of like digital currency. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure the government's going to try and, because I know China's creating their own digital currency. So I'm sure the U.S. will follow suit after they see that that's a little bit successful, and that'll allow them to basically do the same thing, except there won't be any backing for it, so they can just make it whatever they want to. So
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you. Real estate or the stock market?
Real estate. Personally.
I mean, real estate's, I mean, you're going to get a better return in real estate for sure.
Yeah.
At the current prices?
Well, okay. So and that's another byproduct of the government, because interest rates are so low that like everybody's just going crazy because they're like, oh, I can afford this now, I can afford this. And there's less than a month and a half of inventory in most states, or in most markets, I'll say, of inventory. So it's like houses are selling in like a week or something, whereas usually it was at least 30 to 60 days. So I just think that that's not going to last forever. And then with forbearance too, there's going to be a lot of foreclosures when people have to, again, pay the piper, and they have to pay for any back rent or on mortgage payments that they didn't pay. So I think that's going to really squeeze a lot of people. And although I do agree that those are problems with real estate, I personally prefer real estate to the stock market, because as you can see with GameStop and AMC and all that stuff, it's a very irrational market. So it's like you can make money, and you can make a lot of money pretty easily, but you can also lose your shorts too. So it's as long as you approach either one really with a sound mind and not just trying to chase everything, and you make sound, solid investments, I think that either one's honestly fine, because you can just pump money into an index fund or something like that. That's, I mean, overall fairly safe. It's gone up, I think, like 8.8% over the last like 30 years or something. So, I mean, there's safe ways to do everything, but I just personally prefer real estate.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is to make sure that you're educated and you're making a sound decision. You're not going to get rich quick. You're not going to get rich overnight. It's a long, drawn-out process. You have to be smart with your investment, and you have to be willing to let it sit there and work for you. And whether you go the real estate route or the investment route in the stocks, then either way, you have to have that same mindset.
Yeah, well, it's like people that never invested in their life dump money into Dogecoin because it went up 600%. And it's like, okay, so you'll put money into that because it's like in the news and stuff, but like you wouldn't put anything into anything reasonable. And you don't even take the time to honestly like research anything, because people are so worried about their money, and they're so worried about, like, they would never want to lose it, but they won't take the time to research it. When you spend like an hour just looking at YouTube videos on like safest investments and stuff, you could get a pretty basic understanding of something that you could do to like help at least protect your money and not just get taken for a ride. So I don't know.
Where are you at, Max?
What do you mean?
Real estate or stocks?
Oh, man.
Man.
Yeah, well, you know, if the real estate market wasn't as high, because it's at all-time record levels right now, and same with the stock market. I mean, you pick your poison, but I think with the stock market, you can still find value because the value stocks are still low, and that's what the Reddit guy did. He didn't. The GameStop it symbolizes a movement, right? It's basically you're against institutions. It's not so much about the stock, really. Whereas the guy who actually invested in it, who was the WallStreet Bets guy, he was a deep value investor, and he was buying GameStop when it was like $5, $4. So there is still value out there. You just got to find it, and he got lucky, and he had a movement behind him, and he turned 50,000-60,000 into 30+ million.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see the fallout from that as well, because I think you could honestly see that all the major players and institutions, they did not like the average person could inflict that much damage on them, to the point to where now Robinhood has multiple legal suits against them. And I think that it'll be very interesting to see who falls on the sword for that one. And yeah.
Okay, but is that a moral issue though?
Absolutely.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Because I was talking to my teammate about it, and he said shorting stocks has been something that big infrastructure has done for years. But when the everyday man decides to do it, that's when it becomes the issue.
Yeah. And then they in turn, just made it so to where they delisted it on multiple brokerages. So it's like then people don't even have access to it. And it's like, if I put my money in there and I'm doing the same thing that you're doing, I should be allowed to do whatever I want to with it. If you have access to it, I should have access to it too. And that's the moral issue, is they took that away from people. And it wasn't because they were looking out for anybody. It was like people were making money. Like, you should just let them do it.
Man.
Right. But we're all playing the same game.
Exactly. So, it's one of those things to where if people want to do it, then let them do it. And they know what the risks are. Like, yeah, there's a lot of retail investors now that don't really know what they're doing with making margin calls and stuff like that. But it's like, if people if they're willing to do that, then you just have to let them do it. You can't say you're protecting them and do something that's, for the most part, market manipulation.
Well, you're not protecting the everyday man. You're protecting the hedge fund companies that were losing a ton of money, that were going bankrupt.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that like they weren't doing it to protect anybody except the big institutions that are,
for sure,
they're like low key funding them and keeping platforms like Robinhood afloat.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
That's interesting. You guys talk about this with your fellow teammates, or is this something that a topic that you guys talk about amongst players?
I love to talk about investing and stuff, but it's one of those things, again, to where like most people don't really like educate themselves as much. So it's usually pretty short conversations.
But sure. I mean, I'm the same as Gavin. I love talking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's important.
Yeah, we could talk about it.
For sure.
Like, I have kids, and so I have to think like about their future and what am I doing today that's going to have a long-term effect on what they're going to have going on. So that's a conversation that I feel like as athletes or as anyone, that's a conversation you should have, and that's something you should be educated on.
Well, especially for athletes, I feel like, especially in our position, because we're not in a league to where as soon as we're done, we get a pension and all this other stuff to where it'll keep us afloat. So it's like whatever money we make while we're playing is like, that's kind of it, unless you get like a job. But it's like, it's tough for guys to play a long career and then go back and try to apply for a job. Like, you're basically a feral cat to an employer. It's like,
well, you go to an employer at 40 years old and say, hey, hire me, but I can't take this amount of salary. I need at least this because I have a family. They're going to be like, man, you have no work experience. I'm going to hire this 21-year-old fresh out of university.
You're starting. And honestly, like, we've been away from a traditional like salary job for so long that honestly, and with like what our age would be, we would be, or somebody fresh out of college would be that much more attractive because they can basically be trained and they could be in that company for however long versus somebody like us who has a much shorter span of when we would be working. So
true. And they don't have to pay them anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they probably wouldn't pay us much either because
that's true.
Like you said, like, we don't really have any, like, we're older and like a little bit more mature maybe, but we honestly don't have any, unless you like work at something and you have like actual skills. Like, I guess an outlier would be like somebody who like does programming and then like they can go in and they can actually do something. Mm-hmm. They can compete with other people even though they haven't been working. But in like a traditional job, it would be very hard for somebody like us to be competitive with somebody younger.
I agree.
That might be your play then, real estate, because you do it now, you have passive income for forever. So
exactly, yeah, and that's something that I'm trying to set up something to where like I can start it over here and kind of get something going to where start something that I don't really have to be that big a part of, and I can still be making money off of it.
Okay, so you're gonna pick the phone up and call me, and we're gonna work this thing out. What's up, man?
For what? What are you gonna do?
I got $2.75 I want to invest with you.
That'll cover the shipping for the book to get to you.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, I got you.
All right, so we're gonna transition into the Mount Rushmore section of the podcast, and we want to know your top 4 of whatever topic we throw at you.
Okay.
Top 4 Japanese foods.
Ooh. I always get flack for this because everyone that I say, they always say it's Chinese. I'm going to go ramen. What's the, I should know this. I'm blanking right now, though. The grilled chicken on a stick. What's that called?
Yakitori.
Yakitori, that's it. Yeah, yakitori.
I know sushi's on your list.
Yeah, sushi. But yeah, I'll say sushi and gyozas.
Oh. Ike, I never asked you, what's your top 1?
Oh, man. Don't put me on the spot.
That's the best way.
Ramen. Sushi. Sukiyaki.
Moss burger.
No. No, that's tough, man. Probably shabu shabu.
I got one spot for you for sukiyaki. Go to Imahan. It's in Asakusa. Imahan is like probably the most well-known place for sukiyaki.
Oh, really? You have to. I appreciate that. I knew Gavin was going to say sushi because we had this tradition at Aishin where Wednesday was like our walkthrough practice. So we would go to Sushi Row and we would just eat a ton of sushi.
You guys could afford better than sushi though.
Man, listen. Gee, how many plates could you eat, bro?
Oh, I don't even know. It was no less than 15 every time though.
Oh, no less. 15 was the minimum.
Yeah, 15 was the minimum. That was like a light day.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate the time that you spent with us. Anything that you would like to plug in at the end? Your social media or whatever you got going on?
I'm not even sure what my Instagram thing is. I always forget it.
You never use it.
Yeah. Gavin Edwards 21 on Instagram. Other than that, I don't really have anything else, but I appreciate you guys having me on. Had a fun time and appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, man, we want to bring you on again and talk some finances and stuff on a future episode, bro, because I really appreciate how educated you were on that space.
Yeah, for sure. I would love to, man.
Yeah, that's more on my lane too. So it's an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, Ike, you want to take us out?
All right. Once again, this has been the IKEMAX podcast. Gavin, thank you for coming on. Max, thank you for your time today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you guys for being with us once again.
Thank you, Gavin.
All right. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
日本の方、最後までご視聴いただきありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価よろしくお願いします。